What's up, guys? It's Analyst. Welcome back. We are at week 7. This video is brought to you by Dibbs. My friends at Dibbs. So it's a really cool thing. You can trade online fractionalized sports cards. You can check that out by hitting the link in the description. And yeah, thanks to Dibbs for sponsoring this video. Awesome. So let's jump straight into this. We have a pretty bad Thursday night matchup here. Cleveland hosting Denver. Look, as far as Cleveland goes, no Baker Mayfield, no Chubb, no Hunt. Landry, as of right now, he might be activated. I'm actually recording this on Thursday. I usually record this on Wednesday night, but I wanted to see if Landry was officially going to be activated, if OBJ is playing, if Teddy Bridgewater is playing, if Tyler Conklin and Jedrick Wills are playing. Like, there's a lot of people who may not be playing in this matchup. And it seems like there's a lot of game time decisions. So, we didn't really get that much of a full answer yesterday. So, I was hoping we'd get more answers by the time I recorded today. Doesn't look like it, but at least the recent report said it would be an uphill battle for OBJ to actually play today. And then Jarvis Landry might be activated. I still don't even know if that means he's going to play. It's getting messy. So I'm just going to talk about what we do know. And yeah, so I mentioned for the Browns, no Baker Mayfield, no Chubb, no Hunt. We know that for sure. So it seems like Case Keenum's going to be starting. This is a Case Keenum revenge game, so to speak. He did play with the Broncos for that 1 year. He actually had, I think that was his best year. He had almost 4,000 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. But, this looks like D'Ernest Johnson is going to come in and take over this running back group. He's got a shot at the primary role. He's never hit 10 targets in an entire season. He is just not their pass catcher. But what is interesting is when you break down how much him and Felton have done, especially last week. So Johnson, in his first week active, he was on the field for 4 passing block snaps. Demetric Felton, who is their other running back / wide receiver, was on for 0. Johnson ran 7 routes. Felton ran 10. Johnson had 1 target and Felton had 2. So it's fairly even as far as pass catching. It looks like Johnson's going to be on the field for third downs. They're probably going to do 2 running back sets, if anything. Line Felton up as wide receiver. And if you're lining Felton up as a wide receiver, that kind of puts him on the same level of like any of the other Browns wide receivers, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jarvis Landry, if he plays, whatever. So I'm really not all that interested in Demetric Felton in that respect. D'Ernest Johnson, on the other hand, he's got a chance at 15, 20 touches. And what sucks about this game is that the quarterback situations are so questionable, yet both of these defenses are very, very good against running backs. So the Broncos are 3rd best defense at defending against running backs as far as fantasy goes, and the Browns are the 2nd best defense at defending against running backs. So, it's kind of funny how that shakes out, but D'Ernest Johnson, I'm fading him to a point. I think the volume's going to be there. I think all he really needs is a goal line carry, which is very possible. I just don't think he's going to explode. Kareem Hunt couldn't even explode without Chubb on the field. I don't think D'Ernest Johnson's going to do that much better. So, yeah, I'm not buying too much into D'Ernest Johnson, but this is bye Mageddon, right? So bye Mageddon, we have a ton of teams on bye weeks, including the Steelers, Bills, Chargers, Jaguars, Vikings, and Cowboys. So if you are starting D'Ernest Johnson, it's probably not because you want to, it's probably because you have to. And he could still be okay. I think he can get between 10 and 15 points. I'm not expecting him to go crazy. I have some notes here about Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know if he's going to play. The recent report says it would be an uphill battle for him to get onto the field. If he does play, he's got a decent matchup. I assume the Browns will be playing from behind, but then again, as you can see here, the Browns are 1-point favorites. 41-point total. Look, this is not a game you want a lot of players in tonight. I'll just say that. Regardless, if Odell Beckham doesn't play, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's had a productive couple of weeks. He ran more routes, I'm talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones now, than Rashard Higgins, and Higgins is playing most of his snaps from the slot, and DBJ is playing outside. So Donovan Peoples-Jones has kind of earned his role on the outside, whether OBJ is there or not, and Rashard Higgins is going to be taking on that slot. As far as we know, Case Keenum does like targeting the slot. What quarterback doesn't like targeting the slot? But we'll see. Again, I don't want to take my chance on really any of these guys. The only guys I'd really want to start from the Browns' perspective is if you're desperate, D'Ernest Johnson. Austin Hooper, he ran more routes than Njoku, but the week before, Njoku ran more routes than him. Neither of these guys are reliable. Neither of these guys are consistent. Just don't do it to yourself. So let's go to the Broncos side now. I mentioned that there's a lot of questionable guys from Cleveland. Well, Teddy Bridgewater's also questionable in this matchup. We don't exactly know if he's going to play. The report I saw is that he's likely to play, but we'll see. Looking at these running backs now, Melvin Gordon has led the team in snaps over the last 2 weeks, 60% and 53%. But what's interesting is even with him leading the team in snaps, the touches have been split. So over the last 2 weeks, Gordon has 24 touches and Javonte Williams has 25 touches. Both these guys are, I guess, desperate flex starts. Again, Cleveland is the second best team against running backs. As far as the Denver wide receivers go, Courtland Sutton, he's been getting consistent target share, so I'm fine starting him. Tim Patrick, this is if Teddy Bridgewater is starting. I'm okay with Tim Patrick. Cleveland is one of the worst defenses at covering wide receivers this year. I believe they're 28th when it comes to defending wide receivers. So I don't hate Tim Patrick. I don't hate Courtland Sutton at all. Noah Fant, if you have him, you're likely starting him because it's hard to get consistent production out of the tight end. So yeah, that's this Thursday night game. I'm not a fan of this. It's probably not going to be a pretty game. I have some IDP guys in this game, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so let's move past this. Let's get into some of the better games here, including this game. Tennessee Titans hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs 5.5-point favorites, 57.5 total. That is a huge total. So starting with Tennessee here, Ryan Tannehill only has one game over 20 fantasy points. This has just not been his year. It's been Derrick Henry's year, and Tannehill really hasn't had to do much. And he's only had one game where he throws more than one passing touchdown. So I do think that can change here. This point total is ridiculously high. A.J. Brown kind of hitting his stride last week. Even if Julio's not there, Kansas City is bottom of the board when it comes to defending quarterbacks, receivers. Their secondary and their defense as a whole is just not good. So talking about Derrick Henry, I mean, this dude's on pace for over 500 touches. He's on pace for over 2,000 yards on the ground again. He's likely on pace for over 500 yards in the air. So Derrick Henry's doing it all. There's not a world where you ever sit Derrick Henry. Okay. A.J. Brown, I want to take a chance to talk about him a little bit. He practiced in full last week until getting food poisoning from eating Chipotle right before the game. I believe he was throwing up. He was getting fluids all over the weekend. And he had to leave the game on Monday multiple times, apparently, to get fluids. And by fluids, I mean an IV. Even so, he left the game multiple times, and he still played 79% of the offensive snaps. That may not sound like a lot, but earlier this year, the highest he played was 84%. So he still hasn't played a full complement of snaps. And if he didn't get food poisoning, the fact that he had to leave the game multiple times, and it wasn't the Titans saying, like, okay, you've been on the field enough, like, get off, give other guys a chance, whatever. It was the Titans saying, like, okay, you need an IV, like, this is serious, like, you can't, you don't look good, you're sick. So if he wasn't sick, it kind of leads me to believe that he'd be out there for a full complement of snaps. I mean, there's a chance A.J. Brown plays a full game, which is great because he hadn't done that. And really, the last couple weeks, he's been missing practice on Wednesday, and then he'd be limited on Thursday and Friday with the same knee issue he had last year. But the matter of the fact is, he's practicing in full. It seems like the knee issue is no longer an issue. And even last week, playing with food poisoning, essentially, he looked great. He was playing a lot more in the slot. He had 9 targets. He had a great target share. And I think if that can translate to this game, especially with Julio Jones not in the lineup, potentially, who is still not practicing with a re-aggravated hamstring or different hamstring, whatever it is. So, I think A.J. Brown could have a huge blow-up spot here. We haven't seen an A.J. Brown blow-up spot in quite some time. And honestly, look, everything's pointing to this being the week. Last I saw, A.J. Brown did not practice on Wednesday. Apparently, he's still recovering from food poisoning. That's some serious food poisoning. I've never had food poisoning. If you guys have, if this is normal, let me know. I think they're just kind of giving him a break because they had the Monday game, and then he's still dealing with it. They're going to give him Wednesday as like a rest day, and then hope he's back to full strength on Thursday, which is today. So, unless that changes and food poisoning is still giving him issues, he might want to go see a doctor. But overall, I think A.J. Brown's in a pretty good blow-up spot this week. Okay. So, not really much to talk about in terms of Anthony Ferguson. Julio, I mentioned, he was forced out of the Monday night game, and he missed practice on Wednesday. He's trending in the wrong direction. There's a chance Julio does not play this week. Now, for the Kansas City side, there's not really much to talk about when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. You're starting all of these guys. Running back-wise, Darrell Williams. He had 25 opportunities last week and played 72% of the snaps. So, Darrell Williams, I had my doubts. I thought they would have gotten Jerick McKinnon involved. I don't think Darrell Williams is all that talented. But they're trying to give him the load. And Darrell Williams is going to run with it. So, it looks like Williams is going to be a low-end running back 1/high-end running back 2 for the time being. If you have him, congrats. Start him. Okay? And I mentioned there's not really much else to talk about Kansas City. Of course, you're starting Tyreek Hill. Of course, you're starting Travis Kelce. Of course, you're starting Patrick Mahomes. Demarcus Robinson, he did have more targets than McCole Hardman last week, but this is a situation that always flip-flops, so I'm not buying too much into that. Let's move on to Carolina against the New York Giants. So I have this labeled as a Matt Rule revenge game. So it's not like Matt Rule ever played for the Giants. But he did interview for them, and they chose to go in a different direction. So if you look at where the teams are now, the Giants probably wish they took a second chance on Matt Rule. But let's look at the Giants real quick. This is not a great matchup for Daniel Jones. Stephon Gilmore's practicing right now. He has a chance to play this week and give a huge boost to this Carolina defense, which has already been great. It's really only that secondary for Carolina that's been struggling. I'm staying away from Daniel Jones, and a big part of that has to do with the weapons he has available as well. Saquon Barkley hasn't been ruled out, but he does have a low ankle sprain. He didn't practice Wednesday. He's going to have to practice today or tomorrow in a limited fashion to be considered for this game. If I'm the Giants, I'm being smart. I'm letting him sit another week. That way he's full go the following week. Devontae Booker in Saquon Barkley's absence had 16 touches, also played 72% of the snaps, similar to Kansas City running back Darrell Williams, but he just 16 touches compared to Darrell Williams 25. Booker, I just think it's the flow of the offense. Like Sterling Shepard had 14 targets last week. They kind of turned it to pass heavy. Daniel Jones threw the ball 51 times. They had to abandon the run game, and I think that's kind of what we're going to see here against Carolina Panthers. So, Booker, he's a desperate start. More Giants injuries. Kenny Golladay, he has not been ruled out, but he has a hyperextended knee, as they mentioned before. I'd be surprised to see him play. Kadarius Toney, as of right now, is listed as doubtful. He didn't practice Wednesday. He re-aggravated that ankle injury. But what's really interesting about Kadarius Toney is that he played 6 offensive snaps. 6 offensive snaps gave him over 6 fantasy points. In those 6 snaps, he had 3 catches for 36 yards. Daniel Jones looked for him every other play he was on the field, and he was making sideline catches. He looked great. So if you have Tony, I think this is great for his future, even with Sterling Shepard there. And I think that's what really was encouraging about having Tony on the field. You had Shepard on the field at the same time, and they were still looking Tony's way. Tony's playing outside. Shepard is owning that slot role, so 2 different roles. And so Tony, when he returns, he could be a weekly flex / wide receiver too. Right now, it looks like he's going to be doubtful for this week. Sterling Shepard, I mentioned 14 targets last week. It looks like Kenny Golladay and Tony are going to be out again, which means you're cranking up Sterling Shepard yet again this week. Evan Ingram, he has not been consistent. He has not done enough. He has not been explosive. I am not starting him. Now, for the flip side for Carolina, Sam Darnold, not a great matchup. Look, he's just not looked good recently without Christian McCaffrey. This Giants defense is not great, but they do have some playmakers like Leonard Williams. No Blake Martinez anymore, but they do have Jabril Peppers and James Bradbury. They have Logan Ryan. Revenge game for James Bradbury. I'm sure he's already played against the Panthers since he's been traded or signed or whatever. But, they do have playmakers on the Giants side, and I think that's going to give Sam Darnold some trouble. Chuba Hubbard, he has a great matchup this week. Seems he's still in IR. He saw 19 opportunities last week, and he played 65% of the snaps. The Giants, since losing Blake Martinez, have been one of the worst defenses at defending against the run. So if I have Chuba, I'm throwing him in my lineup this week. DJ Moore, regardless of the matchup, he's been getting the target share, so I'm looking after DJ Moore. I'm not really looking for Robbie in this matchup. This is not a game where I think he could blow up. And, So that's going to be that. No reason to talk about Ian Thomas. Panthers 3-point favorites. I think they could get more than 3 points on the Giants in terms of the spread. Okay, we got Miami Dolphins hosting the Atlanta Falcons. So, look, starting with Tua, there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of trade rumors. I have not seen a single credible source come out and say any of these rumors are true. If anything, I have seen the opposite, saying these rumors are false. The trade deadline is next week, so that would, spark some reasoning as to why there's all these trade rumors. We saw Zach Ertz got traded not too long ago, so that would make sense for that. But look, Tua, he may not be great real life wise, but fantasy football, he's been playing great, and he's been putting up points. He's getting rushing yards, he's getting passing yards. He's throwing the ball a lot more recently, so I do like him in a matchup against Atlanta. As far as these running backs go, I thought I had some. Okay, so Myles Gaskin, he tied the team lead last week with 36% of the snaps. He had 11 opportunities compared to Malcolm Brown's 6 and Ahmed's 9. So this may seem like, oh man, 11 opportunities, which is like rushes and targets. That's not a lot. Well, that's not unusual for Gaskin. It's just not a productive week. In 5 out of the 6 weeks that Myles Gaskin has played, he's had at least 5 carries and 5 targets. And almost identical. Like if you look at Myles Gaskin on a week-to-week basis, it always just seems like he gets 5 carries, 5 targets, and that's it. And he's been able to produce on some of that, in the early weeks. But as of right now, he's not getting it done. He's not playing as many snaps as he did before. So I'm staying away from Myles Gaskin. Interestingly enough, it's just worth noting that he is still leading this backfield. Waddle in his first game back with Tua had 13 targets. He currently has 3 touchdowns in 2 games with Tua. So Waddle and Tua really seem to be hitting off. He's going to be a weekly flex play at least, as long as Tua is his quarterback. You do have Devontae Parker also coming back, and with Will Fuller on IR, he may be worth a look against an easy Atlanta secondary. Gazeki, I had my doubts, and he's looks like he's here to stay. He's still getting a huge target share. Tua, at least early on in the year, wasn't really looking to give him that, but he's been stepping into that role. So, on the flip side, Matt Ryan, I don't hate him as a streamer at all this week. That Miami secondary has been like Swiss cheese. And as far as the Atlanta running backs go, which is Cordell Patterson and Mike Davis, according to my friend Faraz at Upper Hand Fantasy, the Dolphins have allowed the 4th most points to running back, the 7th most rushing yards, the 9th most receptions, and the 10th most receiving yards, all to running back. So Miami is crap at defending against running backs, whether that's them running or catching the ball. So I think Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson, both great starts this week. Calvin Ridley, he's going to be back in the lineup after a personal issue. Russell Gage, he's probably going to be back too, but I'm not looking to start Gage. Kyle Pitts, last time we saw Kyle Pitts play was in London. He had his breakout game. I'm expecting that to continue. I don't think they kind of go away from what was working for them. So I do like Kyle Pitts in this matchup. It's funny, both of these teams, the last time they played was in London. We just kind of put that together now in my head because they're really smart. Okay. New England Patriots hosting the New York Jets. So, not really a Mac Jones game. This is a game where the Patriots are going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to, get up early, just try to get back on the win column. So, I don't think Mac Jones is going to have to do much here. Damian Harris, a good start to this week. He's been banged up, but he's still the best running back on the team. And he's practicing in full. And that's been a problem with Damian Harris. He's been questionable each and every week, but he is going to this week. He's not listed on the injury report, so that's great news for Damian Harris. I think he's a fine start this week. Last time he played against the Jets, he had upwards of 60 yards and a touchdown, and I believe he got hurt in that game as well. So I do like Damian Harris in this matchup. Ramondre Stevenson, last week he kind of jumped into what would have been the James White role. And he did pretty good with that role. But I don't think this is a game where you're going to have to use James White in that respect. So White was kind of being used in a when you're down and you need to throw the ball, you can kind of move the offense through him. Stevenson, I don't think he's at that point yet. I think Damian Harris is still playing a lot of those third downs as well as Brandon Bolden. So I'm going to sit Ramondre Stevenson in this matchup. Jacoby Myers still getting a target share, but again, this is not a game where they have to pass the ball. So I would kind of limit my expectations there. Hunter Henry still seems to be at the forefront in terms of this tight end group. He is running the routes. Jonnu Smith is seemingly just turning into a blocker at this point. So I don't hate Hunter Henry either. But again, this is not a game where they have to pass the ball, and you'll likely need a touchdown from Henry. As far as the Jets go, last time Zach Wilson was against the Patriots, it was not pretty. I know he's coming off a bye week, and he's got his full complement of weapons between Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore, and Corey Davis all on the field. So I do think he can do a little better. But, this is the Patriots at home. Their defense has looked great these last couple weeks. I know it didn't look like it, but they held up pretty well against Dak and the Cowboys. And the week before that, they held up pretty well against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So I think they can hold up pretty well against the Jets. Running back wise, Michael Carter, last time he was on the field, he played over 50% of the snaps. He had 13 opportunities. So Michael Carter seems to be the lead in this backfield. We'll see if that continues, but I think he's worth a desperate flex play. Last time he played against the Patriots, I believe he had over 10 fantasy points. And that was fairly early in the year. Still a lot of confusion with these wide receivers. I'm going to sit all of them until we kind of see where these targets are distributed. Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, and Elijah Moore all healthy for the first time. All completely healthy. So I want to see how this shakes out. I want to see where Zach Wilson is going to go with the ball. So that's going to do it for this game. We got the Baltimore-Cincinnati game. We got Baltimore at home hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Both teams are doing pretty well this year. Latavius Murray looks like he's going to miss time. And, I didn't talk about Lamar Jackson because obviously you're starting Lamar Jackson. Latavius Murray going to miss some time. Le'Veon Bell showed up last week, but this backfield's still split, and none of these guys are going to be worth it. So, yeah, I'm gonna stay away from this Baltimore backfield for right now. As far as the wide receivers go, I mean, Rashad Bateman, and his first active game, he ran 22 routes on Lamar Jackson's 33 dropbacks, which is a great number. And to give you an idea, Marquise Brown ran 29. So in his first game of limited action, Rashad Bateman was not too much behind. He was actually ahead. In his first game, he led the team in target share with 22.2%. Assuming his work gets ramped up this week, I think Rashad Bateman could be a sneaky flex play. So he's probably going to be a desperate start. And considering how terrible the bye week is going to be for a lot of people, he's desperate starts are going to be in need. So I don't hate Bateman if you're really in a pickle this week. That being said, Cincinnati is no longer a walk in the park, but and on the flip side, the Ravens defense is no longer one of the best in the league. That being said, I like all three of the wide receivers for the Cincinnati Bengals. I know Boyd has been the odd man out, and he doesn't have a great track record against Baltimore, but he's got a good matchup in the slot against Tavon Young. Tavon Young has been pretty awful in coverage. They're going to need to move the ball. They're 6.5. Ravens are 6.5 point favorites, so they're likely going to be in a lot of passing schemes. So I think Boyd can do okay. I think Boyd can get you through the week if you're really in a tight spot as well. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Even in a tough matchup, Chase still has yet to get less than 13 points in the game. I'm not benching him against Marlon Humphrey. And I think what's going to happen here is I think because T. Higgins is a little bit of a taller receiver than Jamar Chase, and Marlon Humphrey's a pretty tall defensive back, I think what's going to happen is he's going to stay on one side. He's going to rotate between covering T. Higgins and covering Jamar Chase, and whoever else is left is going to be against Anthony Averett. So, I just don't... you can't cover both of these guys with Marlon Humphrey. And I think they're going to try to bounce him back and forth between Higgins and Chase. I don't think he's just going to stick on Chase, and I don't think he's just going to stick on Higgins. So I think both these wide receivers can still be good. Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow, my boy Burrow, I think he can do okay in this game. Not excited about the matchup, but I still think he can be feasible. Joe Mixon, I really hope they keep using him in the passing game, similar to how they did last week. That was really effective, and if they do, it'll be great for his value. Baltimore has not been fantastic against running backs. They're kind of middle of the pack. So, I think Joe Mixon is going to be fine in this game. We got a couple more matchups here. We got Green Bay Packers hosting the Washington football team. Not really much to talk about in Green Bay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers doing his thing. Aaron Jones doing his thing. A.J. Dillon is making this backfield a little bit more split than we're used to, so that's fine. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams is a great matchup for him. Washington is kind of like Kansas City. They just kind of have one of the worst secondaries in the entire league. So Devontae Adams can absolutely eat this week. Tight end wise, look, Robert Tonyan is just not getting it done. He's only seen more than 5 targets once, and it wasn't even his best game. So you can drop Robert Tonyan if you haven't already. As far as Washington goes, this is still the Taylor Heineke show. They're going to be, Green Bay's 7.5 point favorites here. Antonio Gibson banged up. He did not practice Wednesday. I have not seen a report from today being Thursday. If Antonio Gibson does play, then, you're probably going to end up starting him, especially with all the bye weeks this week. If he doesn't play, then I'd say J.D. McKissic is an instant start. He's going to get a ton of targets, especially with all the other injuries they have in terms of Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, whatever. Terry McLaurin, he was banged up last week. He's looking in better shape this week, so Terry's a full go here. I believe, and I want to double check this. By the way, Ricky Seals-Jones, I'll talk about this when I'm looking this up. He had a great target share last week, and he seems to be a tight end 1. As long as Logan Thomas is out. So, Ricky Seals-Jones, you're still starting him. Jair Alexander, he is still on IR, which is great news for Terry McLaurin. So, Terry McLaurin, I think this could be another blow-up spot. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to need to throw it. And it's last I saw, Terry, is he practicing in full? He didn't practice Wednesday due to a hamstring. Wednesday is typically a rest day, so I'm expecting him to practice limited today and Friday and be good to go for this matchup. Ricky Seals-Jones, I mentioned, he's a tight end 1 until Logan Thomas returns. Okay, Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Derek Carr doing his thing last week with the new head coach. This is still the Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller show. This is also the Josh Jacobs show. Jacobs really hasn't been overly impressive as a runner, but he's getting a ton of red zone touches. He's getting a ton of carries. He's actually getting targeted now. Kenyon Drake did have a big week last week on such limited touches, so we'll see if that momentum shifts going into this week. But as of right now, it's hard to sit Josh Jacobs based on what he's doing. I think this is a good matchup for Henry Ruggs, playing against his former teammate, Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. Also, I don't really know if he played with Jalen Hurts or if he had much playing time with Jalen Hurts. I can't remember. But, so I don't hate Henry Ruggs this week. Hunter Renfrow, you can start him as a PPR flex per usual. Darren Waller, he's going to be doing his thing. As far as Philadelphia goes, Jalen Hurts, no matter how he looks on the field, he has not disappointed you yet in fantasy. He's had 20-plus points in just about every game. No, he has absolutely had over 20 points in every single game he's played, which is awesome. So there's no reason to sit Jalen Hurts in any of these matchups. Running back wise, Miles Sanders, he's a great buy low right now. He hasn't had the most productive couple of weeks, but his snaps and his touches and his targets have all been trending in the right direction. We saw last week on the Thursday game, every time Miles Sanders touched the ball, the fans went crazy. They want to get this guy the ball more. And Las Vegas doesn't have a great run defense, so I think this is a game where Miles Sanders can actually do pretty well. I think he's bound to have a big game sooner or later. That being said, Kenny Gainwell is kind of falling behind here. Wide receiver-wise, Devontae Smith couldn't get it done last week. A large portion of that had to do with every time... But by the time Jalen Hurts snapped the ball, he had 3 defenders already down his throat against Tampa Bay. I believe that offensive line is going to be healthier going into this week. They should be getting some of their pieces back. So, I'm hoping that turns around. And if that turns around, Devontae Smith can be better. Dallas Goedert has been removed from the COVID list, and Zach Ertz has been removed from the team, which means that Dallas Goedert should be a weekly start. Los Angeles Rams hosting the Detroit. Holy crap. A 15-point favorite. And then Arizona's a 17-point favorite. Wow. Wow. If you guys ever are curious of hey, what defense should go after this? These are pretty good numbers to look at. I didn't even see that before. But the Rams are 15-point favorites against the Detroit Lions. Matt Stafford going against his former team. That 50-point total is for the Rams. Do not get it messed up. That is not for the Detroit Lions. Wow. You're starting Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford's gonna have himself a game. I think the Rams, as a courtesy, are gonna let him have a game. I think, running back wise, Darrell Henderson, he's playing over 80% of the snaps. He's getting workhorse. He's playing a workhorse role. So you're starting Darrell Henderson. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, definitely startable this week. Tyler Higbee's been up and down, but, if Matt Stafford's going to have a game, why not throw in some Higbee and Van Jefferson shares, right? For Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, it's also a Jared Goff revenge game, but, he hasn't been playing well. You're not starting Jared Goff. Running back wise, DeAndre Swift, I think this is going to be a lot of garbage time. So that's going to bode well for Swift. That's where he's gotten a lot of his points. Wide receiver wise, not looking to start Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think TJ Hawkinson is going to continue to build off his week last week. He had 11 targets. So I think this is a game where obviously they're going to need to pass the ball. They're going to get some garbage time points. So I like TJ Hawkinson here. And I like Swift. So yeah, that's just about it. I think Jared Goff's going to get bullied this game. Arizona Cardinals hosting the Houston Texans. Kyler Murray, not really much to say here. Chase Edmonds, I think James Conner is definitely startable in this game, and I don't think I'd ever say that, but he's getting consistent work on the ground. This is going to be a positive game script, as you can see. So they're going to have an opportunity for James Conner to play. So I like James Conner. I don't hate Chase Edmonds as well. Wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins is doing his thing. Christian Kirk is also being really helpful in terms of moving the ball. This is going to be Zach Ertz's first game with Arizona, so my expectations for that are not high, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role he plays. As far as the Houston side goes, it's still the Davis Mills show until Tyrod Taylor can come back from his injury. This is a David Johnson revenge game. How about that? A David Johnson revenge game. Oh, man. So, take that for what it's worth. I'm not starting David Johnson by any means, but I do think that's pretty funny. Wide receiver-wise, I think Brandon Cooks can continue to build off of what he did last week. He had 13 targets. Arizona, they don't have Patrick Peterson anymore, so this is a game where Brandon Cooks can still get the ball. And there's not really a reason to... Oops, it's my 12 o'clock alarm. Not really reason to talk about anyone else from Houston. Like, at all. There's no reason. My God. Tampa Bay, even 12.5-point favorites here against Chicago. Tom Brady's going to do his thing. Leonard Fournette, he's been killing it. There's no way you can bench Leonard Fournette right now. Wide receiver-wise, Antonio Brown is not practicing. It is Thursday, and he is still not practicing. There is some concern of whether he might actually miss this game, although I don't think he did get kicked out of the last game early. He had some extra time to recover, so maybe that could turn things around, but it's not looking good for Antonio Brown right now. Rob Gronkowski still not able to practice, so there's a chance Gronk misses this game, which means Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are very, very startable in this week. Chicago, Justin Fields, he's still just not doing a great job. He's not passing the ball much, and I think this week against Tampa Bay, Khalil Herbert is not going to do much. I'm going to lower my expectations for him. Damian Williams, he is their primary pass-catching running back right now, so I think Damian Williams could get some decent targets in this game. Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, just, again, not getting enough volume. This theoretically should be a game where they could be startable, but, again, Justin Fields is going to be under a lot of pressure. I don't think he's going to be able to move the ball that well, so I don't really have a lot of faith in any of these Chicago pass catchers. As for the Sunday night game, San Francisco 49ers hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Jimmy Garoppolo back in the lineup. Trey Lance is dealing with an injury. As of right now, Elijah Mitchell is their starting running back. That's great. As he's starting, they're going to give him the work. So I don't hate Elijah Mitchell as like a low-end running back too. Wide receiver-wise, I'm hoping after the bye week for San Francisco, maybe they can get Brandon Ayuk a little more integrated into this offense. But as of right now, George Kittle is still on IR. Deebo Samuel, very, very great play for the Sunday night matchup. Brandon Ayuk yet to be seen. Indianapolis Colts, Carson Wentz has looked a little better lately. Jonathan Taylor's also been killing it on the ground. San Francisco has been pretty bad against running backs, so Jonathan Taylor can continue his run here. Naheem Hines is kind of becoming an afterthought, which is crazy. Jonathan Taylor had his highest snap percentage last week of the whole entire season, so that's great. T.Y. Hilton came onto the scene last week, and he posted over 10 points, over 10 fantasy points, which he always does against Houston. If there's one game where T.Y. Hilton does good, it's against the Texans every single year. I don't know why, but he just does. So, T.Y. Hilton, I'm not overly interested in him, but I think we're still keeping an eye on him. Michael Pittman, I'm going to lower my expectations, only because we saw the targets go to T.Y. Hilton's way, who is also dealing with another injury now, so We'll see. We'll see. I think Pittman is still startable as a flex play. And then Mo Alley Cox, worth mentioning. He's been on a bit of a run lately. He's been getting consistent target share. He's been getting targeted in the red zone a lot. So Mo Alley Cox, if he does something again this game, then he's going to start being on people's radar. Okay. We got a Monday night game. Seattle Seahawks hosting the New Orleans Saints. Unfortunately, Michael Thomas is still has labeled a couple weeks away from returning to action. As far as Seattle goes, Geno Smith, as of right now, is still starting. They are talking to Cam Newton, reportedly. So there's a chance there might be a new quarterback in Seattle sometime soon. Running back-wise, Alex Collins still running the show. Not a great matchup, honestly, so I'm going to be sitting Alex Collins this week. Rashad Penny also coming off IR or just injury or whatever he was. So Penny has a chance to be involved here as well. Wide receiver-wise, tough matchup for DK Metcalf. Tough matchup for Tyler Lockett. If you have them, it's by Mageddon. You're probably starting them. It sucks, but you're probably going to end up starting them. As far as the Saints go, I like this matchup a lot for Jameis Winston. Saints are 4.5-point favorites. It seems like right before the bye, he was hitting his stride. Running back wise, Alvin Kamara, he could go crazy this game. They still don't really have a backup behind him to take away touches. Seattle has been one of the worst, if not the worst, defense at defending against running backs. Marquez Callaway coming off a very successful week. A lot of that could have had to also do with Deontay Harris being hurt. Harris really was acting as this team's wide receiver 1, but he is back in the lineup, so it's going to get messy. And Juwan Johnson, although him and his wife's TikTok is hilarious, he has not been consistently getting targeted, so he is not someone I'm targeting for fantasy. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. As always, leave a like, subscribe, check out Dibbs in the description, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm answering all questions in the comments as long as you guys subscribe. So if you have a question, be sure to ask it. All right? See you.